Hello, this is Skylit Lake reading Wine and Dine in Spite by Vienna Azu, Chapter 3, Before and After. Of all his current eccentric habits and odd mannerisms and tactless behaviors, Shouto's very favorite one is watching Izuku, which is saying a lot considering he has quite a bit of those, among which are cracking ice, organizing pencils by color hue, and writing down notes of the occasional bird song, which are all very entertaining, and yet his favorite is still watching Izuku, because there is so much to watch every time he partakes in this activity. The halls are quiet as Izuku and Shouto move through the house towards the dual-toned boy's bedroom. Shouto observes Izuku as they walk side by side, the way his fingers twitch next to Shouto's, the way he keeps brushing hair away from his freckled face. He's nervous. Shouto can tell, but he shouldn't be. Shouto's right leg reached out, attempting something he has never done before. He lightly taps Izuku's left foot with the tip of his own as they keep on walking. The corridors seem to stretch forever, as Shouto attempts to guide them towards his room. When they finally do get there, Shouto is the first one to step through the doorway. He starts to gather his things to go about his normal routine before he notices Izuku standing by the closet, awkwardly shifting in place and looking overall uncomfortable. "You can sit down, you know," says Shouto, pointing at the large bed, his father's insistent, in the middle of the room. I'm not sure how you want this to work," Izuku says, cheeks tinted pink and gaze flickering between objects. "Sorry?" says Shouto, pajama pants already in his arms and gathering his shirt. "Well, I mean," starts Izuku, "I'm technically only your boyfriend in public," he says as his blush deepens. "So, I'm not really sure how comfortable you are with us sleeping in the same bed. Or, we don't have to do that if you don't want us to. Whatever you want, really. It is your house and your room after all." Shouto looks at him with a puzzled look on his face as he thinks about Izuku's words. "Why would I be uncomfortable? We've slept on the same bed before, multiple times even," says Shouto. And what a silly question it is, really, because they have. Countless times have they slept next to each other in all kinds of arrangements. They've never really crossed the bridge of physical contact, save for the occasional accidental finger brush, so there's not even a need for Izuku to think he'll be too warm in Shouto's bed. After all, Shouto has learned what Izuku's preferred temperature is after much time spent together, and he has subconsciously learned to maintain the temperature in every room they're in. The sudden silence in the room throws Shouto off and brings him back down to earth from his thoughts. Did I do something wrong?" asks Shouto, deciding to get it over with if Izuku has a problem with all this now. No, not at all. It's just..." He cuts himself off, looking off to the side and closing his body language. It's a look Shouto hates, and he loves almost all of Izuku's looks. Shouto sets down his clothes on his desk chair and moves to sit on the bed, nudging Izuku to do so too. "I really want to make a good impression on your family," says Izuku. "Whatever I do could lead to you leaving UA." Izuku looks away and starts to trace patterns on Shouto's solid grey bedding. What if they make assumptions? What if they think that I'm some sort of vulgar nymph desecrating their precious son? Okay, let them. Shouto can't help but let out a huff of laughter, both at Izuku's words and at the flabbergasted expression he wears at Shoto's reply. What? Shouto runs a hand through Izuku's curls, teasing the hair and brushing it out of his face at the same time. I don't want you to overthink this, says Shouto. I didn't bring you here because I wanted you to fix how my family sees me, or you for that matter. But I still should... No buts. The more you try to figure out what my family is thinking, the more you'll stray away from what they actually are. If they want to believe we're in here having wild, passionate sex, Shouto! Then let them. The best thing to do right now is to trust they can see how much you mean to me and for who you are, not for what they assume you to be. Izuku smiles at him. A warm, bubbly feeling goes through Shouto. He does his best to try and smile and pats Izuku's mat of her hair lightly. Shouto stands up and collects his clothes from the nightstand. I'm going to change in the bathroom. Feel free to change in here if you want to, or if you want to wait for me to trade off, that's also fine. I won't be long. Izuku gives him a smile from where he is and nods at him as he starts to dig through his bag. Shouto walks away, muttering to himself about vulgar nymphs and laughs on his lips. When Shouto comes back into the room, Izuku is already dressed in his own nightwear, which consists of a t-shirt with the words pajama shirt printed on them and the absolutely most ridiculous pair of all-white shorts Shouto has ever seen in his life. However, Shouto happens to like all of Izuku's looks, so he ignores the shorts and focuses on the upper half of Izuku's body. They get into bed, and after soft and sweet mutters of good night, Shouto hears Izuku's breath fade into slow, quiet patterns. There are many things Shouto has seen that no one else has. Many things that he has had the privilege enough to witness about the green-haired boy that will come to others after much, much time. One of these things is the way he sleeps. They've slept together before, in the non-vulgar sense, as aforementioned. They've laid side by side in Izuku's bed, exhaustion on their lips and dawn just short of being upon them. They've seen parts of each other, seen scars of each other that they haven't come to explain to the other. They've done this before. And yet, Shouto's entire body feels energized as he watches Izuku sleep. He turns around towards the window with his back towards Shouto, but his shirt was slightly shifted, and at this moment, Shouto loves watching Izuku. He watches the way in which the muscles on his lower back expand and contract with each breath, freckles poking out from just above his waistband, forming constellations upon constellations. He watches the way his shoulders shift, and the white fabric clings onto his skin, highlighting every curve and every edge of the boy's torso. It's almost ethereal to a degree. Ethereal in the angelic sense. Ethereal in the sense that it feels right. That Shouto can only think about the possible reasons he hasn't seen this before, hasn't seen the way that Izuku's viridian hair curls up at the nape of his neck and trails up from in between his shoulders, the way the same viridian hair catches on the moonlight that filters through the curtain, giving the boy a sensible glow, and creating just the right highlights on his cheekbones. Shouto has always been told he's attractive. His looks almost always came up when talking about him, and how he is not only strong but handsome, despite his glaring scar on his left side. And yet, as Shouto admires his friend, soft puffs of warm air and rosy cheeks on his cold skin, all round features, yet lean and muscled, with the universe as his backdrop. No mountain range, no moonlit sea, no natural wonder, and certainly no half-burnt face can ever come close to being as sublime. He closes his eyes, Midoriya Izuku burnt on his eyelids. When Izuku wakes up, he's in an unfamiliar place. Usually, and considering how prone he is into getting in trouble, this would be considered a very bad thing, for multiple reasons. It takes Izuku, him looking at his surroundings, to realize that he is, in fact, in Shouto's room, with Shouto very pointedly being absent from it, his bed of the side still warm to Izuku's touch. But then again, Shouto just runs unusually hot. Izuku panics for a second, picking up his phone and checking the time. It's not too early, nor too late. It's around the time one would wake up on a normal weekend. Shouto is still not here, and it puts Izuku on edge. He thinks about last night's conversation, how weird and insecure he must have looked. His face flushes as he mentally scolds himself, but he doesn't have the time to dwell on it before the door to Shouto's bathroom opens and the boy himself peeks into the room. Izuku smiles at the sight. "Hi," says Izuku. "Hi," says Shouto. "I didn't know you had woken up." Shouto still looks very much fresh out of bed. He's still in his pajamas. His hair is ruffled on his hair in a way that looks impossibly soft. "I just did. Have you been awake for too long?" "No, just went to the bathroom and washed my face." He starts to stand up, gathering his clothes to dress himself up. "What time are we supposed to leave today?" "Any time you want," says Shouto, taking off his shirt in a way that makes Izuku feel like he should be looking away, even though they've spent countless times dressing and undressing themselves in the same room. "I guess it's more up to you. I'm not entirely sure what we're even gonna do," Izuku replies. "There's not much to do. Showing you around the house really won't take long. The forest is very lackluster." "I'm sure it will be entertaining," says Izuku, turning around to take his shirt off and picking one of the ones he bought. "You say that now, but you won't be saying that when it's just you, me, and Mother Nature." "Yeah, well, you're plenty entertaining enough," says Izuku without much thought. Silence falls into the room before quiet sound comes from Shouto. "Oh, thank you." Izuku can tell he's trying to smile, or at least twist his mouth in a way that conveys Shouto is pleased. They have breakfast in the kitchen together, in relative silence, save for the whispered conversation in between them until Shouto's sister walks in. "Good morning, you two." "Morning," says Shouto, with all the enthusiasm of someone who might be less of a morning person than he tells himself he is. "Hi," greets Izuku. "Midoriya, how did you sleep?" Izuku doesn't feel ready to admit that sleeping next to his not-boyfriend is the best sleep he's had in a while, so he just makes a non-committal hum and shrugs his shoulders. Fumi laughs a little, so Izuku assumes that probably meant she won't pry too much into it. Under the table, Shouto's leg swings while it hangs off the stool, occasionally wrapping around Izuku's in a way that sends a feeling of warmth through his spine and all the way to his fingertips. He hits his foot back against Shouto and lightly presses their thighs together, and immediately the temperature seems to rise. Fumi gives them a look of something and leaves the room, letting Izuku and Shouto get back to the talking in whispers. The past 40 minutes have made Shouto place hiking within his top 5 favorite activities to do with Izuku, not above combat or watching movies, of course, but high nonetheless. His heartbeat thumps in his ears as Shouto continues to walk side by side with Izuku. He still is in front of him, who half walks, half hops across the greenery in front of the two of them. Shouto is too caught up in the staring at the way Izuku seems to flow like water across the forest to notice how far behind Izuku he is. In fact, he doesn't notice until Izuku himself turns towards Shouto and starts to say something. Except now Shouto is far too caught up in the way Izuku looks, the way sweat dampens his face, and the way the rosy colours of his cheeks spill across his face, down his neck, far down where Shouto can't bring himself to think about. The way his freckles stand out against his lightly tanned skin, and the way his green locks stick to his forehead wrapped around his jaw. Shouto is far too caught up in the way Izuku's heavy breathing are loud in a way he's never had time to think about before during combat. Oh, this moment will come back to haunt him for sure. He's still not quite certain of what Izuku is saying, but the boy had apparently been waiting for a reply that never quite came as the green-haired boy starts to make his way back towards Shouto, little bunny hops ever present and his arms out to steady himself. Shouto is vaguely able to react by the time he has some armful of Izuku, and he hooks his arms around Izuku's armpits as they both tumble to the ground, the dirt clouds around them as Shouto coughs to the air, and Izuku coughs into Shouto's shoulder. The air clears as Shouto waves a hand, and Izuku pushes up on his chest, their faces inches from each other. Shouto can feel Izuku's hot breath against him, and he gets a close look at the face that had him entranced just seconds earlier. He hears an embarrassed squeal from Izuku, and he feels the urge to smile. "Hey," whispers Shouto, his mere voice shifting Izuku's hair. "Hi," Izuku nervously smiles. "I tripped." "So it would seem. We should get up." "We should." They get up. Izuku dusts himself off, making brief effort of brushing the dust off Shouto's shoulder before they both sit down on a nearby rock. "Were you going to say something before you tripped at all?" Not really. I was just going to make sure I wasn't going too fast for you." "I can keep up," says Shouto. "Don't worry about me." "I don't think I'll ever be able to do that, Shouto." And they're alone in the forest, where it's just two of them, alone where appearances and names and behaviors are not important, alone where Shouto's own name coming from Izuku's pink petal lips with the amount of warmth and care that there is behind it, in a way that elevates it beyond something to be called, beyond something to be named, and towards what he imagines a prayer would sound like. Alone where he could do it, where he could just close the space between them and allow himself to explore what an unknown emotion sounds like, allow himself to discover what it means to feel the tightness in his chest and the warmth on his face. But he doesn't, because his mind is still catching up to Izuku's breath on his lips, and his own mouth has gone slack. Yeah, I don't suppose I will either. They eventually head back, a comfortable silence falling over them, leaving them to be surrounded by sounds of nature around the two. And it's just as pleasant to watch Izuku here in the woods as it is to watch Izuku in their classroom, as it is to watch Izuku in his own house. So he goes back to watching, back to gazing, back to admiring. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Chapter 3 was so good. I really loved the really touchy feeling moments. I loved how soft it felt. The dialogues and the actions all felt natural and very like in character. I just ooh. This is my favorite Deku Shouto, or is it Shouto Deku? I don't know. My favorite fanfic between these two characters. I just love it. Such a good fanfic. I mean, go and read the actual one because sometimes I swear I don't do it justice. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!